Hey, Frank and Arlo. Greetings from beautiful Hanna Park in Mayport, Florida. I'm about 7 miles north of where we live. Today I want to tell you two stories, but they're related now. When you're a police officer, or you had been a police officer, people always ask you the same questions. They say, did you ever shoot anybody? And I never did that. I did have to take a knife off a guy. I never got shot at. That's the second question. Has anybody shot you or shot at you? And the third one is usually, did you ever deliver a baby? Yes. And let me tell you something, it's the easiest job in the world. Those obstetricians, or whatever they call those guys, it's like you're a quarterback and the play is always a handoff. You just take the ball from the center and you hand it off to somebody who's never going to fumble. So the name of this two stories is Clark Johnson and a story that I call Instant Baptism. The first happened on, I think it's 34th Street on the way over to the hospitals. So you have Children's Hospital and University of Pennsylvania Hospital over by the Civic Center. They were the closest hospitals to where I worked when I was in 1718 car in Grays Ferry. And I had stopped a guy out there. He had come off the Schuylkill Expressway, and he was speeding. Pulled him over, got his stuff, sitting in my car, and this vehicle pulled up behind me, and that's pretty alarming. You don't want people to get behind you when you're a cop, in vehicles or in person. And so the guy got out, and I got out, because I didn't want him to come up to me like he was stopping my car. And he said, my wife is having a baby. So I said, well, do you need to know how to get to the hospital? And he said, no, my wife is having a baby now. And I looked in the car, and she was in there in the back seat of the car. And I came up, and she was having a baby. So I went back to my car, and I let radio know that there was a maternity happening. I gave them the exact location, and they started rescue over there, which is what we called EMTs back then. And I went up and explained to the gentleman driving the car that I had stopped that he was the luckiest man in the universe. Have a nice night, drive safely. And I explained what was happening, and so now normally, I took a bunch of people to the hospital to have babies, but in this situation there was no way I was going to put this woman, try to get her into my car and over there. But I wasn't hearing the rescue squad yet. Now, there was one right around the corner on Grays Ferry Avenue, and I figured they were going to come from there, but I wasn't hearing it. And I went up, and I saw, it's called crowning, when the baby's head starts coming out. I didn't know what it was. It kind of looked like a bubble or I don't know, cantaloupe or something. So I went to my radio. We didn't have walkie-talkies usually back then, unless you were on a beat. So I went on the radio, and I gave them an update. I said, well, the baby's on its way. And they said, well, what do you see? And I said, it's like a bubble. And so they said, hold on, and they talked to rescue and came back and said, no, it's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's the head. So just stay there. And they gave their estimate. It was 5 minutes, something like that, but it would seem like forever. Now, by this time, the guy, the father, husband, whatever, he was upset that I was looking at his wife in that area of her body. And I said, look, I'm trying to do this as little as possible, but you get here, and you be the one to catch this baby. This is your baby. You be the one to catch it if it comes out before rescue gets here. And so that's what happened. And I stayed out of the picture as much as I could, out of respect for this family. And rescue made it. They cut the umbilical cord. The lady was in the back of the car, and she said, I just want to thank you so much, officer. You probably saved my life, which I didn't. I really didn't do anything. And she said, I'm going to name this child after you. It was a little boy. And I said, well, you can't do that, man, because you don't know my name. Because I figured she was going to name him Franklin, and her last name was Johnson. And she said, don't be silly, your name's right there. And it was. My name tag that said Clark. So I never followed up on it. I think they lived in one of the projects down in the 1st District. I never went back to the hospital, and I could have done that and said, look, this baby that was born, what's its name? But I could only take this woman at her word. So somewhere in the 17th or 1st District, for a long time, hopefully, there was a little baby boy named Clark Johnson. The other story I'd call instant baptism. Now, I wasn't the delivering doctor in this. The delivering doctor was another police officer named Mary Alasoskis. And Mary was about, I don't know, we called them Smurfs because we wore blue and the girl cops were little. It wasn't offensive back then to say girl cop. We were boy cops and they were girl cops, so. But I got to a house on Wharton Street around 30th, maybe the 2900 or the 3000 block of Wharton Street, kind of catty-corner to this bar. I forget the name of the bar. I forget if the bar even had a name, but it was where all the local toads from 30th and Wharton hung out. There were several bars. One of them was at 29th and Tasker, and another was at 30th and Wharton. You got to know the players there, the ne'er-do-wells. And they became more fun the more alcohol and drugs they had in them, the more glue they huffed and the other things that they did. So I got to this house and Mary Alasoskis' car was there. I think she was 17, 14. But she wasn't there. The door was open and I went in and I said, Mary? And I heard her from upstairs say, Frank, get rescue. There's a baby here. Now, it was a maternity call. So we were just planning on taking this woman over to the hospital. So I went back to my car and called in that there was a baby on the way. But that wasn't true. I went back upstairs, and there was a lady sitting on the toilet with no pants on, and Mary Alasoskis was standing next to her, holding a brand new baby with the umbilical cord still hooked up and gone into the mom. I was like, whoa. So I never saw either of your father's births. I could have been there for Frank's and I missed it. I forget why I missed it, but I missed it. And then Tom's, I wasn't offered the opportunity to be there at the delivery room. But it's a thing, like you get to go in there and watch your baby being born, and some men do it and some men don't. I don't know if either of your fathers were there when you were born. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I suspect, Arlo, that your dad didn't because he's squeamish around blood. But anyway, there was this little baby, and I was like, is the baby breathing? And she said, yeah, I think so. So I went up and I'm going like, yeah, I think. And it wasn't crying or anything like that. And I said, well, let me go down and let them know what's going on. So I ran downstairs. And by this time, there were other cops that were starting to come in because there was something, a buzz, oh yeah, something interesting going on out there in Grace Ferry. So I ran downstairs and I said, look, this baby was born and it went in water. We believe it's alive, we believe it's breathing, but tell rescue to get here now. So I went upstairs, and just around the time that we started to hear the rescue siren hitting the neighborhood, this man walked in, a young man. He was the father of the baby. And he went, what's going on here? What are all the cops here for? And the women, now by this time she's holding the baby, and she went, Joey, it's your little son. It's your little son. And he went, that's awesome. Dunked in shit, comes up smelling like a rose, just like an Irishman. So he then said, I'm going to cross and tell the guys at the bar. And he left. He left this freaking kid there. And now by this time there's a crowd, there's cops popping in and going like, oh, what you got here? Oh, cool, bye. People that thought they might have to get involved in it, transporting a dead body and things like that. They just wanted to get out of there. But rescue showed up, and they took the baby and I think they did the umbilical cord and took mom and baby over to probably the UAP. And that was like during the week. It was a day shift. It was day work that we were working. So on Friday of that week, I was driving past the corner, 30th and Wharton, and the same usual suspects were out there, but they were dressed up, and they were dressed up fairly nicely. And I stopped, and one of them was the guy whose wife had just had the kid, and I said, what's up? I was horrified. I thought maybe the baby died or something. And he said, hey, you're that cop the other night. And I looked in the window. He went, Clark, yeah. Listen, you and that girl cop, are you two dating? And I said, no, we're not dating. Why? He said, well, I'm getting married tonight. It's on us. You're welcome to come. It's all you can eat, all you can drink, and you'll be real celebrities at this thing. And I'm like, what? You're getting married? You just had a baby a couple of days ago. He said, yeah, it's great. Now my wife can fit in her wedding gown again. Oh. So I said, yeah, you know what? I'm honored. I'm glad that I was there at the birth of your son. But I have a feeling after about 5 or 6 beers and 3 or 4 shots, I'm not going to be such a good guy anymore. I'm going to be that friggin' cop that locked you up a couple months ago because you were drunk on the corner, being an asshole. So maybe we should just keep our relationship professional. And I went and told Mary Alice Soskis, and she said, yeah, I wouldn't go to that thing anyway. You'd be on your own, buddy. Anyway, that's the story of Clark Johnson and instant baptism. Falling in the toilet, coming up smelling like a rose, just like an Irishman. Oh, I forgot to say exactly, and this is not scripted at all, so this woman, she knew she was pregnant, of course. There are stories of women who don't know that they're pregnant, and they sit on the toilet, and they have a baby and go like, whoa, I thought I was pooping, and then I had a baby. This woman knew that she was pregnant, but didn't know anything about her water breaking or anything like that, and had to poop and sat down on the toilet. And I don't know if she did a number 2 or if she didn't do a number 2. So I don't know what the water was like that the child hit, but she sat down on the toilet, and the miracle of birth happened. And she was as surprised as anybody else. Peace out, guys.